Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. Hello, everybody. My name is Rod McCall.
Hey, it's me, Bryce Runge.
Today, we're going to talk about life after divorce. And if you're wondering, yes, there is life after divorce.
Oh, yeah. So we've got a lot to talk about today. I know last episode we had a guest with us, and that was a pretty powerful episode. In fact, before we move on today, I do want to interject something that Nicole coaches people up on is that Google Calendar.
Oh, yeah.
And I mentioned, hey, that's a good idea. I should maybe try and implement that. And
did you?
I did. I emailed Braddock's mom, and I put it in a way that would help, everyone involved, all stakeholders involved, communicate more effectively and put more ownership on Braddock's and to check the schedule and to whatnot. And it wasn't met with resistance. It was, let's do it.
Okay.
So I'm like, awesome. So, okay, I haven't put it actually into baby steps. All right. Baby steps. But I think it will be extremely beneficial, and I'm grateful for her coaching advice in that regard. I just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, I kind of took us a little away from today's topic a little bit, but
well, actually, no, you didn't, because one of the things that we wanted to start with today was, in part of this life after divorce, be a parent to your kid, and so having that Google Calendar makes it easier for you to manage, multiple schedules, multiple households, and the Google Calendar makes it easier to do that.
Right. Oh, yeah, I agree. And as he continues to get older, I mean, I think this will be, I think it'll teach him a lot of life skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Balancing, all of your responsibilities.
Right.
And, you've got work schedule, the ex has her schedule, you're both remarried, you both have little ones from the new marriage.
Right.
So you've got a lot of different things pulling, and as Braddock's is getting older, he's doing more things. And so balancing schedules is really kind of hard. So having a calendar that everybody has access to makes it easier to be able to, invest time with them.
Yeah, right. And again, we've talked about it in most of our episodes. We're going to continue talking about it, which is something extremely paramount: communication.
Oh, amen.
Right. And so when we, specifically with this calendar, implementing the use of this calendar, it's beneficial to all parties. And again, everything's going to be in that calendar, so it helps to remove that uncertainty of, well, where am I at this weekend, or what do I have, or what's going right? It just communicates loudly to everyone involved. Hey, this is what's going on, and so we.
Well, and if you want to plan something, if you want to plan something with Braddock's, or his mom wants to plan something, or God forbid, Braddock's actually wants to plan something for himself.
He wants to plan a date, I'm sure.
Well, he's a little young.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, he is 12. I got it. But, my folks always said my sisters couldn't date till they were 16. Not that stopped one of my sisters. She was dating by the time she was 11.
Oh, gosh.
I only know that because the boys would come over to their house, and then they would try to, impress me. And not happening. Yeah. Though I did get to ride a number of bicycles that were pretty cool from them as they rode their bikes on.
Oh, that's
anyway,
funny.
Another story for another day.
Right. All right. Well, so today, again, our first point is be a parent to your kid. And how we want to do that is by investing time, right? Invest time with your kids. And so, Rod, give us some tips on how we can invest time with our kids.
Well, I'll just tell you what I did with Eric when I had very little money. Most of it was going to all the bills and expenses.
Right.
But what I did have was a lot of time. And so we would spend time, we might watch TV. We got into I'm a huge Star Wars nut. And so we were, this was when the Clone Wars episodes and TV shows were there out on Disney. And so we would watch those.
Okay.
I was just getting into Harry Potter. And, we would watch the Harry Potter movies as they would show up on TV. We would play games, all kinds of games. Like Connect 4. Was teaching him checkers. We would play Uno. Just little simple things. Card games that my parents had taught me, from Kings in the Corner to Crazy Eights to a card game we call Golf. We would play these kinds of games.
Right.
With the primary point of making memories. The apartment complex had a swimming pool, and so we would go swimming. We would we'd have water gun fights, and just doing stuff with him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I right there with you. I mean, that's it. That says it all right there. Making memories, right? And I'm sitting here listening, and I'm like, yeah, I'm nodding my head. I'm like doing all those things. Yeah, first year after my divorce, which I do talk about in my new book, which I know I'll get a plug in later for.
Yes.
After my divorce, I didn't have anywhere to go, and so I ended up moving back to California, which you are aware of, and taking on that every other weekend dad title sucked, right?
Yes,
but it sucked more traveling back and forth every other weekend. But those weekends that we were together, my main objective was making memories. And like you said, at games, going to the park, doing whatever. And I got to thinking, I've understood, because making a point to communicate with Radix has been a top priority. So I understand his love language. And I think that's something that we as parents should really try and understand about our kids, right? So Braddock's is quality time. He doesn't care about all this stuff. Like, he wants to sit on the couch next to me, and that's it. Like, that's important to him. So that's how I love him.
I think that, yes. Sadly, Eric died long before we got too far into it. But for me, it was, his mom would spend money on it. But that was how she would show her love. She'd spend extreme large amounts of money. But I never had that kind of money. And I wasn't a fan of it when we were married. And when we separated, it was... I didn't have the ability, but I always had time, and I remember that's how my parents raised us.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of cash, but they would always find ways to spend time with us.
Right.
And so that's what I tried to share with him. Again, developing and building that relationship, and the trust, and and it's not just that, but it's as they get older, like Braddock's has gotten older, school events, school activities, from maybe they're in the school play, maybe they might they're getting into sports,
the band,
whatever it might be. There's tons of school activities. Maybe they get in a citizenship award. Whether especially like end of the year. Or if you're, able to, they have school party. Well, I don't know. They didn't have really a lot of school parties this year because of COVID. But, whenever you can, going to school, having lunch with your kids, or whatever school events go to.
Right. Yeah, I miss, you said going to lunch. When I was running in-school suspension, I had a little bit more freedom than I do now. But it's my lunch... I was so blessed those for like 2 years. My lunch lined up with his lunch when he was elementary, and I was having lunch with him at least twice a week. Now, it might have been a little too much for some people, but again, I'm coming of the mindset was, well, I don't get to see him every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I see him on that one Thursday and every other weekend. So this is how I'm going to make those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll always remember that because that's important to him.
Again, it's not the big, flashy, expensive times or things. It's the small, little stuff. And I go back to, what do I remember?
Right.
And, what made me happy? And what are some of my fondest memories?
Mm-hmm.
And almost none of them go back to money.
Right. Well, mine didn't go back to money because we were not well off. I'll put it that way, in a nice way.
No, we did not. Heck, my mom used to make some of our clothes.
Oh, my head right here, brother.
But
I got so sick and tired of Spam and butter and salami sandwiches for lunch. Man.
Oh.
Now I actually love salami.
How times change.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to go, other things that are available that I've, in talking with, other parents, what they do. Kids are into a wide variety of activities.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as they get older, whether it's Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, maybe they play club sports, stuff like that. Gives you, again, an opportunity to participate. Maybe your kids, on the chess club at school, or maybe they're on the speech and debate team at school. You can go to, different competitions. Again, just showing support for your kids. One of the things when I was in college I was part of was Big Brothers Big Sisters. And that was a fantastic program. And it was predominantly for kids who were part of, single families. They were either you only had mom or you only had dad.
Okay.
And so to help fill that gap of the missing parent, you could put your kids in the program. And I was matched with a couple of different little brothers. And it was fantastic. Cool. And I had, I'd even toyed with the idea of possibly, even though I was present, putting Eric in Big Brothers Big Sisters. Not to give him a big sister, but to give him a brother. Again, somebody other than me to potentially talk to and confide in.
Well, it takes a village, right?
In many ways, yes.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a very powerful piece of advice there too. Something that we wanted to bring up also is when you're going to these events, when you have school events or sporting events or extracurricular activities, whatever. I learned this early on that it's important to, as challenging or difficult as it might be for mom or dad, whoever it is, right, to sit next to your ex-spouse. Early on, I didn't want to sit anywhere near my ex-spouse. I know some of you who are listening probably are in that same boat. But what made me change my mindset in that it was looking at Braddock's when he'd be singing or playing whatever instrument or something, right? And him scanning the room to find mom and then scanning the room to find dad or vice versa. I'm like, that's not fair to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be an adult. I have to be mature in this moment. And I'm going to go stand or sit next to or near so that we're together. Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks volumes, and it's important for the kid to see that.
Absolutely. Give you a great example tying in with me. Having remarried here a few years ago, I have two stepchildren, stepson Evan and a stepdaughter Jessica, and they played sports.
Mm-hmm.
They were in middle school and high school when their mom and I first started dating, and we would go to their sporting events, and she would, my wife would be sitting next to her ex-husband. So it would be me, my wife, her ex-husband, his mother, and then my wife's mother. Mm-hmm. And we'd be sitting there.
Yeah.
And they got along enough to be able to do that.
Right.
Whether it was, and then of course at graduation, Now, there were only so many tickets, and I didn't go. I was more than happy to stay at home and watch on TV because, they stream these things these days.
Oh, yeah.
But they did. They sat together, and it was very clear that it was about the kids.
Right.
The kids first.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think it helped them.
Right.
They may not have maybe said so out loud. I may have to ask them that when I see them here. With Father's Day coming up soon, I'm hoping to be able. I may try and ask him how that made them feel.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess I've never asked Braddock's that, so I will be asking those same questions because I do think that when you sit together, you communicate to your kids. Whether you're verbally communicating, you're obviously you're not because they're participating. Is that you're communicating to them, and maybe people are just like, I just really hate my ex-spouse. Well, it's not about you.
It's about the kids.
It's about the kids. It's not about you, and until you come to an end of yourself and realize this is about my kid, and I want my kid to be successful, and for that to happen, I'm going to have to set my pride aside. I'm going to have to put my anger aside. I'm going to have to go sit near. I'm not saying you have to sit hip to hip, okay, because that's awkward. But some people can do that, but some people are just so bitter and angry, But again, hey, make it about the kid. That communicates to your kid. So that's a good question I need to ask Braddock's, because I know that with Suzanne and when Braddock's was playing basketball, we were all there, and the little kids were there, and we were all sat right next to each other. So you got to imagine that you're a cohesive unit all together at the bench. That encourages. I don't know, just encourages the kid on stage or in sports or whatever in some form or fashion. In my opinion, that it would somehow encourage them versus, there's my parents a mile apart because they hate each other. Right now, I'm Debbie Downer, right? Whatever, right? So
and you got to be you're put in that middle. Which is what we've talked about in some of our previous episodes. And one of the things, I think it was even brought up in our first episode about our nonverbal communication.
Right.
And you're communicating nonverbally that mom and dad can put you, our kid, our biological children ahead of us and our issues.
Yeah.
And they are just that. They are our issues. They are not your issues.
Exactly. You're right.
So,
yeah. And, sometimes you're not always able to sit right next to each other. And I know we talked about this a little while ago, but, try, do your best to be in a close proximity with each other. Again, I know events happen, it gets crowded, and someone shows up late or shows up early. It happens, right? Don't get mad at the other person. Just do your best to sit next to each other, because again, that encourages and it promotes positivity for all involved, right?
Yeah. Good. Thank you. I'm not going to say anything else. That was
okay. Good.
You summed it up.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I got to say, one of the hardest things for me was how to be single.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, kids aside, again, I went from being a full-time dad and a full-time husband to being a part-time dad.
Right.
Every other weekend. So I had all this free time, and it's kind of like, my first response was, well, I need to find somebody to fill that void. I've been rejected. I've been kicked to the curb, and I needed somebody to help fill that void.
Right.
And I didn't know how to do that. I mean, last time I'd been single, I was, in college. And,
that's a long time.
It was. And there's, my life had changed dramatically.
Sure.
I wasn't a 20-something anymore. I was a 40-something.
Yeah.
And my career didn't put me in a position to know a lot of, single women.
Right.
Or even single guys. So it was how to be single was a huge, huge challenge for me.
Yeah.
How'd you deal with it?
I was going to say, it was a bit of a challenge as well. But you had mentioned that void, right? Filling that void, and I think unfortunately a lot of people fill that void with a lot of insignificant things and
Such as?
meaningless things. Well, I mean, we could start with drugs, alcohol, right?
Okay, yeah.
You could fill it with unhealthy things, right?
Yeah.
Shopping, clothes, right? You name it. But for me, I had Braddock's,
Okay.
right? And so he became my focus. Not to say that I didn't go on the dating apps, I didn't swipe left or right, okay, because I did. I admit it. I tried to meet people in church, and I don't think I was mentally there. I was just in that sea of sorrow for a while, and I knew, because I had Braddock's. I mean, he'd filled that void, and so my focus became him. And although I was like, I was into women and I wanted to date and all that, it became a hassle too. Like, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of clicking on these apps, and I'm like, I'm over it, right? Which lead me to, I really have to focus on me.
Yeah. One of the things that I was there with you, and I think that one of the best things was finding this divorce support group. And we had weekly meetings where we would just kind of talk about, what's going on and all that with us individually. But what made it for me was the social part, where we would do, we'd go out to movies, we'd go to dinners. When it came time for holidays, we'd have holiday parties. Sometimes we just have a just because party.
Right.
And that made learning how to be single again so much easier.
Right.
And it was, you were by yourself, but you were by yourself with a bunch of other single people,
right,
who you could relate to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I found them on a meetup.com.
Okay.
And while I understand that a divorce group like ours here in Dallas is not as well, it's localized to just Dallas, that not a lot of communities around the country have them, but Meetup is nationwide. And a lot of folks that I got to be friends with, well, they would go on Meetup and they would find book clubs or travel clubs or, wine tasting, whatever. There are so many, literally hundreds and hundreds of things, that you could, that they had meetup groups for. And so they would find people, maybe they were single, maybe they were married, didn't really matter, but they had something in common.
Right. And
so being able to find those things that make you happy.
Right. And, I'm sitting here thinking, I might have jumped ahead, and I don't know if I answered your question, or if I did, it was kind of out of line. Maybe, I don't know.
You out of line?
Yeah, never, right? But no, you're absolutely right. I think it's that connecting with people, they have similarities, where sometimes you don't have anything in common, right? But that makes things fun. But I think for me it was, again, going back to the, hey, focus on me. But what do I do? How do I learn to be single again, right?
I will say that for me it was the divorce group and our social activities. You said you don't have anything in common. The only thing we had in common in the divorce group was being divorced.
Right.
And by being around so many diverse people, it was, I was doing things and going places that I had never gone to before. Went to, there's a place down in Addison, Pete's Dueling Piano Bar. I'd never been to a dueling piano bar, and it was so much fun. I went to plays. I went to the opera.
Nice.
Yeah, got a little culture in there. It was at Cowboy Stadium, and thank goodness that they were able to have closed caption, because I do not speak Italian. But I went to the opera, and again, it was neat to be able to expand my horizons on things, and engaging with people that we're still friends.
Right.
I mean, and we still get together. We visit from time to time, not like we did, but we still are, in communication, most of us through just Facebook. But finding that group
Right.
made it possible for me to figure out how to be single, and by being able to learning who I was,
Right.
made it easier then to go, oh, okay, now that I know who I am again, I'm ready to go to the next phase.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So to kind of sum up that how to be single, right? Finding activities that you used to like or enjoy, right? Submerging yourself in different activities, like through the meetup, like you said, and broaden your horizon, do different things, right?
Go on bike rides where your friend tries to kill you.
Yeah. Do you want to go on that? Do you want to go on that trail again?
No.
So I'm like, okay, I've got to start. I want to start active. I want to start working out again a lot more, and because that was important to me, and I knew that was important to my physical and mental health. So,
and being a dingbat, I said, all right, let's go.
Yeah, so we picked up new mountain bikes, and newer mountain bikes, and we went to like this expert trail up in McKinney, right over in McKinney.
Not knowing that it was an expert. Well, I didn't know it was an
Well,
expert.
yeah, to my defense, I had been on that trail once or twice before. Not that I'm an expert or anything, and I'm like, Rod, let's check out this trail. It'll be fun. And it was hot. And I don't even think we were halfway through, and I lost Rod at one point, and I hear him screaming at me. I don't think I heard any other word than you beep beep.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun for me. For me, it was very fun to watch you almost die.
That was a big hill. Well, I mean, not only going up it, but going down it at nearly vertical. Life may have been crappy, but it wasn't worth dying over.
Oh, that was you had to be there to see that one. But yeah, that was a good memory. But yeah, get out, have fun, exercise. Don't go to the extreme expert level quite yet, but grow there, right? Grow there. And again, find groups. Discover who you are, right? Learn and grow and reflect, right? Meditate, whatever, right? Fill in those times with things that are going to help you flourish.
Well, I think that the biggest issue that I experienced, and in my 11 years of being with the Divorce Recovery Group here in Dallas, was the biggest question of when to begin dating. Because I think that the initial response was immediately.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, you're wanting to fill that void of being rejected. So jumping right into the dating game, I think, is a very common response. But I would suggest the group that I am a part of is run by a licensed professional counselor. And she said, or the lady that ran it when I first started, she said, you need 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years to figure out who you are. She said, now, you want to date. But until you're fully healed, you're not going to be able to give 100% of who you are to this new relationship. Right. You're bringing all the old baggage with you. And so before you make large life-altering decisions, you need to give yourself time. Again, you want to go out on a date, go out for coffee, go out for dinner, Absolutely. Go out to a movie, go right ahead, do that. But be very careful about jumping into a real serious relationship. Right. Moving in, buying a house together, that kind of stuff. Getting remarried within a few months.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, I don't know. Who knows what the exact time frame on that is? It could be right, and it sounds legit. And some people are listening. Are you crazy? 2 years? Blah blah. Well, here's the thing. So if you jump right in to another relationship, serious relationship, marriage, you never gave yourself time to figure out who you are, one, or move beyond the pain, right? Or heal, rather. And you didn't give yourself enough time to get rid of the stuff that you shouldn't be dragging into the new marriage or relationship. And so many people do that. And I'm not being critical of people who have been married multiple times, but we've got to figure out the common denominator here. What's the issue? Are you jumping in too soon? You never figured out what went wrong, right? And so you just keep carrying it from one marriage to the next, and you keep being hurt and hurt and hurt.
One of the things that was shared with me and is now part of the mantra of our divorce group, if you don't figure out what your part to your marriage failing and that led to the divorce, then how are you going to not repeat the same mistake?
Right.
And so the main idea, I guess, in the mental health or the professional counselor that led our group, and I've heard other folks say this as well, you need to get yourself healthy.
Right.
That's mentally healthy, your head's kind of screwed back on straight.
Sure.
Physically healthy, because one of the things when I first started going through the divorce, I went on the divorce diet, where you just don't eat, you don't feel hungry,
right.
all that. But then I got the depression diet, and I ate, and I ate, and I ate, and I put on a crap ton of pounds.
Right.
So getting yourself physically healthy through, again, the exercise. Socially, learning how to interact with others, emotionally healthy. And lastly, financially healthy. Put your economic house back in order. Learn how to live within your means as a one-income family.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people fight against all the things that they don't want because they don't make time to figure out, like you said, where did I go wrong? So you don't figure those things out, you're going to continue fighting against all the stuff that you don't really want because you never put in the time to figure it out in the first place, right? Or you don't fight to create a legacy, if you will, that's going to be sustainable, that's going to be filled with good things, right? A positive, strong foundation. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that fight against all the stuff that they don't want.
They don't want to take the time.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
That gaping hole that I had in my heart from being rejected was...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Rodney McCalls. He hates it when I call him Rodney. Way to go.
I even thought I turned the dang thing off.
He's not technologically
well, it's a new
advanced.
phone. Sorry, it's a new phone. I switched from Android to Apple. And
hey, we're not promoting. Okay, we're not promoting.
No,
we're not
sorry.
getting paid by them yet. Okay, yet.
All right, sorry.
But thank you, Apple CEO, for listening to our podcast. We appreciate you chiming in today.
All right, smart pants. Sorry, I apologize. I thought I hit the right mute button. Fish in the pond is fine.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to not go through the divorce process a second or a third or a fourth time, learning how to be you again is critical. And you want to rush it, go right ahead.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you don't get married or don't get married in a short amount of time. And everybody, you're right, Bryce. You respond differently to various issues. Maybe you can go through the process in less than 18 to 24 months.
Right.
You and I took the time to get ourselves straight again. And in doing so, we were able to find new partners in life.
Right.
And I am with my new wife, we get along so much better.
Right.
And while we have the baggage of our previous marriages, we're able to work with it, through it. I'm living much more comfortably economically now than ever before in my life because I learned how to live within my means.
Right.
Again, I did the things that they suggested, and I figured out who was Rod McCall
right.
before I could move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that my marriage is stronger as a consequence.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you, like us, and I won't speak for us, I'll just speak for me. It took me longer than 2 years. Or maybe that was by choice, rather. Because I think at one point I said, I'm going to stop clicking on these apps. In fact, I'm going to delete them right now.
So what apps did you use?
I went to Match.com.
So did I.
Plenty of Fish. I know you went to FarmersOnly.com. There's a lot. I don't remember, quite honestly. But I tried to stick to like the... there's a lot out there. There's some that are probably not appropriate. I don't know anything about those. But no, I think when I hit the delete button on those, I started to grow, like, mentally. Like I started decluttering my mind, basically, if you will. So that helped me gain better clarity of one, who's Bryce Runge? Right? What do I want? What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? What's my purpose? Right? All that. And I think through that clarity, I was able to, after a couple of years, become a healthier person mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. And then because of that, because I made time to focus on that, because I did all the decluttering, and because I had that clarity, I was able to then really, for me, that was divine, right? To meet Suzanne. And I don't think it would have happened if I didn't have that clarity, if I didn't go through that process, that pruning process, let's call it that. And so I think that was a big piece. But yeah, I think it's important, to, I don't want to recap stuff that I've already talked about, but the dating scene, right? But I think it's important not to jump in right away. If you're going to do it and you're doing it, you're not listening, then okay, right?
Sure, you just have a greater risk of going through the divorce
repeating.
Again.
Yeah, you don't. You're going to repeat. But that was for me. That was the process that I went through, and like you, we're living so much differently and healthier. Not that we don't have challenges, because we're going to continue to have those.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you're a challenge to live with.
Yeah, I know. Wait, I am? Oh my
gosh. I guess part of the benefit of taking time is that when you go into the new relationship, you've left the past behind you.
Right.
Because the more you bring that past with you, the more likely you are to repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, when you do that, you're going to keep tripping over it. And that's preventing you from creating this flourishing relationship with this new spouse. Your new family.
Yeah.
That's a big barrier. And if you want a healthy, thriving family, you got to go through that process. You have to go through that healing process. I guess you don't have to. You don't have to listen to us.
Yeah. And that's fine. We're just here to offer our experiences.
Right.
Now, again, I really struggled with bringing Eric into the picture. Right. His mother introduced Eric to her new boyfriend within 2 weeks of me being gone, because he moved in to our house with his two daughters. And so Eric was introduced almost immediately to new folks. How did you handle introducing Braddocks?
So similar to what you had experienced, and I want to be mindful of that. But seeing Braddocks exposed to various relationships, if you will, I didn't think that was right. And I thought for me, it was important. One, I got to get myself straight, right? I've got to get it right. And two, I've just seen so many people introduce their kids into a relationship right off the bat, and then they draw close to each other, and then that relationship fizzles out, and then that negatively impacts the kid again. And so for me, personally, it was 7 months before I introduced Braddocks to Suzanne. Okay. It was important for me that, number one, I want to be able to balance this, right? I want to love each other the way they need to be loved, and with the right time. And that was easier because I didn't have Braddocks every day, but still, it was important. And there was no way I was going to throw him into a relationship right away. Like I said, what if it doesn't work out or whatever, right? It's just for me, I just felt more comfortable getting to know, building that relationship with Suzanne first, strengthening our relationship. And she fully was on board and she understood. And like I said, it was 7 months and they hit it off right away. We went to main event or whatever it was. And they hit it off right away. It was a great relationship. But I did communicate with him, properly for his age. Hey, I'm dating this person, and then when things work out, the timing works out, we're all going to get together. And it's going to be fun, blah, blah. And, but for me personally, I thought it was important to not drag him into my relationship right off the bat. I didn't think that was appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to bring your children into a relationship within a couple weeks, couple days, couple months. That's my opinion.
Yes. Because now, if it goes all the way, okay. But if it doesn't, now you're right. The idea of a child developing a relationship with someone and then boom, they're yanked out of their life. I have a friend of mine that he's been divorced for 8-9 years, and he's dated, but he has never introduced his daughter to any of the people he's dated. And he's had a relationship that was a couple years long, and he never introduced. He says, until I get engaged, I'm not going to introduce her. Yeah. Because of what you said. He does not want her to build a relationship, develop a closeness, and then suddenly have to have it yanked because he broke up with the lady and his daughter now can't see that person, or went from something probably very nice and positive to, well, now it's strained. And, he doesn't want to give her that disappointment.
Exactly.
So again, I think that's a tough call, but I think that you're right. Let the relationship develop. Let it, see where it's going. Make sure that it's something that is potentially long-lasting, something that can, potentially lead to a remarriage. Right. Because, again, the kid, protect your child. Yeah. And, if you're, I don't know, again, it goes back to putting kids first. Right. So.
No, I absolutely agree. So, again, our point to that is do everyone a favor or
do yourself a favor.
Do yourself a favor. Let that relationship develop. If it's important to you to get into a relationship, let it develop. Let it strengthen. Then determine when the best time is for you to introduce your kid. I think our advice is don't bring them into the relationship right out of the gate. Let that debate, that relationship evolve. Again, for me, it was important. I didn't plan on 7 months. It just happened to be 7 months. But again, I wanted to make sure that, hey, this is going to be a lasting relationship. And again, I didn't want Braddock's, he's already been through a divorce, right? Even though he was younger, but still, I didn't want him to experience that. So anyways, that's our take on that.
So, well, then that's our advice. Learning how to be single, learning how to figure out who you are, putting your kids first. Date, sure, go right ahead. Just take your time. Don't be in a big hurry. Haste makes waste, as they say. So
that's right.
Be careful.
All right, so that's episode 5, Life After Divorce. We hope that today you grabbed a hold of some nuggets of wisdom and really applied them into your situation. Until next time,
have a great day.
All right, take care.